August 9th, City of Tualatin work session. We have two items on the agenda tonight, the election referral process and our council meeting agenda review communications roundtable. So we'll start off tonight with our first item of discussion, which is the election referral process, which I believe is being led by our city attorney, Sean Brady.
Yes, thank you. Let me pull up my shared screen here. All right, can everybody see that okay? Great. All right, well, tonight I'm going to talk about the election referral process. If you'll indulge me a bit, this is an overview. We'll go over the brief history. I won't go too far back in time, but brief history of what's called the Oregon system. We'll talk a little bit about the referral process itself, which contains the council resolution, ballot title, explanatory statement, and a certification process. All of these processes actually assume in state law kind of a back and forth. So once I get done kind of explaining that, I'm actually going to propose just a slightly different process that kind of puts them all together, and then talk about election dates and submittal deadlines. So just to go back to 1897, there was a gentleman named William S. Uren, who is a People's Party candidate, and he was elected to the Oregon legislature. And Uren believed that political parties were corrupt and that direct democracy was the answer to that corruption. So in 1897, when he was elected, there was a split between the Democrats, Republicans, and the People's Party, which was a populist party. And it became known as the hold-up legislature because nobody had enough majority in the House to create a speaker or to convene the legislature and appoint a speaker. So Uren withheld his votes, and in exchange, that led to some initiative and referendum and recall issues that were later put on the ballot. So in exchange for his votes, in 1902, the legislature put together a series of direct democracy initiatives, and it received over 90% of the approval of those voters, and it created the initiative and referendum process. And then this was later extended in 1906 to include local matters. And then a few years beyond that, in 1954 and 1968, it was further amended. And that culminated in what we have now, which is Article 4 of the Oregon Constitution. And then what implements that is ORS Chapter 250 and 251. And then for Tualatin, we have our Tualatin Municipal Code, Chapter 1-24. So the Oregon system is a system, again, of direct democracy where voters decide what the law is. There are three components to this: the initiative system or the initiative process, the referendum process, and the referral process. And I won't, sorry, I'm skipping around way too fast here. And I won't talk about the recall process, but that's another. So the initiative process gives powers to registered voters to place a ballot on that amends either the Tualatin Charter or the Tualatin Constitution. This power is exercised by collecting signatures in order to qualify for that ballot. Right now, state law provides that it requires 15% of the registered voters to collect signatures from that within Tualatin. There are approximately 18,000 registered voters in Tualatin, so that roughly is about 2,700 signatures that would need to be collected for an initiative. Now, the referendum process, this is where voters have the power to reject or veto any ordinance that's passed by the council by placing that referendum on to the ballot, and then the voters vote upon that. And this also requires the collection of signatures. This requires 10% of the registered voters to sign that petition. And again, with 18,000 approximately registered voters, that's about 1,800 signatures. And then the last power, which I'm going to concentrate on for the rest of the presentation, is the referral process. And this process is what starts off as a council process and then goes to the voters. And the council refers a matter to the voters by placing a measure on the ballot. Now, for the charter, the council cannot change the charter on its own, so it has to refer those issues to the voters. And then the council also may, if it chooses, also refer ordinances to be voted upon by the voters. Now, the advantage of the referral process versus like an initiative process is that the referral process can be ensured to be consistent with both the charter as well as any ordinances, and it's written um, by staff or designee of the council, and then the council gets to decide what language that is. Whereas sometimes with the initiative process, it's whatever somebody proposes. So that language can sometimes conflict with the charter or use additional terms that aren't defined. And so that the advantage of this referral process is it allows to be clear and consistent with existing law. Now, to start the referral process starts by the council passing a resolution. State law requires this resolution to provide, the resolution itself must provide the full text of the measure to be considered by the voters. It must specifically call for an election date on that measure. And then it must also state the specific date. So that can be any general election, any primary election, or any special election that the council decides to call. And then the last piece of that is once the council passes that resolution, it's then filed with the city elections official, which is usually the city recorder. And then the next step in the process is the ballot title. So once the council passes the resolution, a ballot title is prepared, and that's in TMC 1-24080. That's delegated to the city attorney and city manager to draft. But once the ballot title is drafted, it must contain certain things. So this is what voters will see when they see their ballot. So it's by law restricted and prescribed as to what exactly goes with the ballot title. So it contains a caption, which is 10 words that describes the subject of the referral. The question itself contains no more than 20 words, and it has to plainly describe the purpose of the referral. And then the affirmative response to that question must correspond with a yes vote on the ballot. And then the last part of the ballot title is the 175-word summary. And that describes the effect of that referral. And then once the ballot title is prepared, then it's filed with the city governing body and then the city elections official again. And then continuing on, so once the ballot title is prepared, the city must provide notice of that ballot title. That notice goes into the newspaper, it's put on the city's website, and then again, it has some prescriptive requirements that what it must state. That includes the statement that it has been received, that any voter may file a petition for review to challenge that ballot title. It must include the deadline for filing that petition, and then provide that the ballot title language or information is either available in the notice or a link or a information on how to receive a copy of that notice or that the ballot title language. And this gets into the ballot title challenge. So once the ballot title is created, any registered voter who's dissatisfied with that ballot title, they can file a challenge to that ballot title in circuit court. And they have to do this within 7 days from the date the ballot title is filed with the city elections official. And then there's some prescriptions as to what they must file. So they have to name the city, provide notice to the city, and state the reason for why they think the ballot title is either insufficient, not concise, or is otherwise unfair. And then if a ballot title challenge is received, the circuit court then conducts that ballot title review, and they have a choice after conducting the proceedings to either certify the ballot title that the city provided, or they can certify a different title. And then the circuit court review is final. So once the circuit court decides, there's no appeal. And then this last part is the explanatory statement. And then this is an impartial statement that explains the measure. It has to be no more than 500 words, and then it must be prepared when there's a voter's pamphlet that is produced. So that includes any statewide elections. And then the county may produce a voter's pamphlet for other dates, but it does not have to. So if the county does not provide a voter's pamphlet, then the city does not have to prepare that explanatory statement. However, if it's referring the matter during a statewide election, then it must provide that explanatory statement. And then under state law, even though for state referrals, and this does not apply to the city, but under state referrals, there's a process that allows for someone to challenge that explanatory statement. There is no corresponding requirement for local referrals in state law. And then once the referral process is done, there's a certification. We get to file this SEL form. It basically, if we don't receive a ballot title challenge, then we certify when the timeline is complete for that challenge. If there is a ballot title challenge, then we certify after the court has issued its decision. And then once that happens, Washington County assigns a referral number that then becomes that ballot title that goes along with that ballot title. So as I explained before, there's kind of this back and forth with filing with the governing body, and then it goes to the city attorney and then back. And so instead of doing that, I'd propose just kind of a one-stop process or maybe a two-stop process that cuts down on some of that back and forth. So the first would be the council determines whatever language it wants to refer. So that you work through that language, determine that you're satisfied with that, the intent, and then city staff can go ahead and prepare that language as it reflects that intent, and then with a resolution to refer the matter, and then the resolution would contain the required language that has to go into it. It would contain a ballot title. It would contain an explanatory statement. It would also direct public notice to occur, and then delegate that filing, the filing once any and all challenges are concluded. Now, what this does is it presents everything to the council at once. It also is transparent in that voters can see what all of these things are and can respond to, and you can hear from voters before you even decide to pass this resolution. And then once that resolution is passed, that would go as one complete package. And then somebody could challenge, if they so chose, could challenge the ballot title, can challenge the explanatory statement, and all of that in one piece rather than do it by piecemeal. And then as far as the election dates themselves, so there is two general election or a primary and a general election in 2022. May 17th and November 8th. Currently, the dates for when we have to have those referrals to through the process and begin the process, the Secretary of State has not issued its updated guide yet, so I don't know the dates for sure. But generally speaking, that would mean if the council chose a May 17th date, that somewhere around late February, early March, we'd have to begin the ballot title process, no later than that. Certainly can do so well before, and then have to file it with the county no later than late March. And again, there'll be a specific date, but that's generally when it will be. And then for a general election next November 2022, again, to comply, we'd have to begin no later than mid-August to refer that ballot title. And then for filing it with the county, it'd be late August to early September. And then just to back up one more time, and so these are just two of the dates available. The council can choose any date it wants. So the council could choose a special election date if they didn't like these particular dates, and that is okay as well. So with that, I will pause on any questions on the referral process before kind of talking about the language that was submitted.
Can you take it off so we can see everybody?
I will do that. Whoop.
All right, now I can see everybody. Questions for Sean on the process? Council President Grimes.
Thank you. Actually, can I ask a question about the initiative process? Is that okay?
Sure.
So, when someone begins to collect signatures, do they have to already have the ballot title and all the different descriptive pieces ready to go as they collect signatures? And are there deadlines for that? How does that part of the process work? I'm just curious from a time standpoint.
Yeah. So yes, so they don't have the ballot title yet. So they have what they propose as the language. So they submit that to the city, and then we turn around and give them forms to fill out to collect those signatures. And then they do have a timeline that they have to collect those. And you'd have to, if you bear with me, I could tell you the exact date. It's in our code, but I don't have it off the top of my head. But yes, there is a timeline, and then they have to collect those signatures within that period of time.
Okay.
And then, Sean, once they collect the signatures, then the ballot title is done. So the question, the caption, and the summary, and the explanatory statement.
Other questions for Sean on the process? Councilor Sacco.
Thank you. It sounds like there's a lot of stoppage points that could happen with these challenges. And I know that sometimes those things don't move very quickly. So when there is a challenge, like what is that timeline and process to work through those? And is there an opportunity, maybe not a good opportunity, for somebody to challenge just to throw in these stoppage points? And is there anything that would stop somebody from just challenging? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so the only challenge available would be for for the referral would be through the ballot title, and they can, if we put it together, it would be both the ballot title and explanatory statement. They could not. So as far as the timeline goes, the court will expedite that hearing to make sure that it can be certified, the ballot can be certified before the election date that's selected. So if it's, and again, they only have 7 days to file that ballot title challenge. So from the date that the ballot title is given to is completed and filed with the city elections official, they have 7 days to file their challenge. If they don't file it within that, it's gone. And then as far as if they do, then the court will set that hearing quickly and decide it before the deadline for certifying ballot titles to the county. So
there's not an opportunity to like a re-challenge if whatever is decided, the new name, there's not another opportunity to do so. It's just that 7 days.
Correct, for the ballot title. Okay. Now, it doesn't prevent anybody from, once the law goes into effect, from challenging that law later. But as far as getting it on the ballot and certifying it, there's only that one challenge process.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Sean on process?
And then just to pop in on the how long, so it's 180 days after the initiative petition is approved for circulation. Under our code, does someone have to come up with all the signatures to qualify for the ballot?
Council President Grimes.
Thank you. I just thought of something else I wanted to ask. Do all the signatures have to be the old-fashioned pen and paper, or given the times, has there been any opportunity for like electronic signatures to be gathered, or is that an option for petition gatherers?
Yeah, the state has what they call kind of an electronic signature, but it's really not electronic. So you can print out. So for initiative gathering, they can have a website where they have a form that you can then print out and sign and then send in. But it's not a true electronic where you click a button. That's not how these work.
But it gives an opportunity. So some person with the one piece of paper doesn't have to go house to house to house to house. There's options for people to be involved in this particular COVID era. Okay, thanks.
Other questions? All right. Go ahead and proceed with your next part of your presentation.
All right. Let me go back up and find my share screen again. Starts on the bottom and ends on the top, so it's always confusing. Can everybody see that? So this is what was proposed as far as the language that was submitted by certain citizens, and the red highlighted text here is what was proposed to be changed. And again, as I understand the intent is to allow for someone who has served 2 terms as a city councilor to serve 2 more consecutive terms as mayor. So essentially a 16 years on the council maximum instead of 12. I will highlight just a couple things that if the council is interested in this particular language, I would highlight a couple things that I think and a couple suggestions to just clarify that intent. One has to do with the word no less than 2 terms. So because the term limits only apply after 3 terms, that means that no less than 2 terms it would already have occurred. So this language has some I guess it is just not needed at that point. And then on the council, because the term limits as they're currently written, they do not differentiate between the mayor and the city council or a city council member. So on the city council means both the mayor and city councilor. And so there's some language issues related to that. I won't delve into them in too much detail. But so to clarify those 2, I would, if the council is interested in this, to change it. So instead of saying no less than, that it says only 2 terms. And then instead of on the city council, it says as a city councilor. So all the rest of the language would be the same.
Hey, sorry to keep bugging you. I got someone from the public stating that the audio.
I don't believe Sean that.
Sorry, I think Bates was on the phone with somebody else. I just muted him. Go ahead.
Okay. So that would be the suggestion if the council was interested in this particular language. And with that, I will stop sharing. So again, this is to capture so that it's that someone who has only served 2 terms as a city councilor would then be able to serve another 2 consecutive terms as mayor. So again, that would be 16 total years, 8 years as a city councilor, and then 8 years as mayor.
Right, gotta unmute myself. All right, thanks for the change, Sean. That does clarify it quite a bit. Other questions, comments for Sean? Councilor Pratt.
Hi, Sean. I'm wondering, and I'm the specific case for this, but my understanding is, I'm serving a term now where I was elected, but I was also appointed and served, what, a year or so? And that would count as a full term then, right? When you're appointed partway into the term?
That's correct. Under the existing language, it is it would count as a full term for purposes of the appointment year.
Okay.
Other questions for Sean? All right. I guess I'll transition over to council discussion. So the process, Sean, would be tonight if folks wanted this to move forward, that we asked go back to have staff come back with a resolution at a future council date, which would then be part of a public meeting that we can get public comment on the resolution and move forward that way, correct?
That's correct. And when we come back, if you had changes at that point in time, it's not too late to change those. So we could change it however you see fit.
All right. And so the timeline is late February, early March. This has to be in by to make the May election.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So that gives us, gives folks, if the council would like to have a resolution drafted and brought forward for public comment in a future meeting, it gives us, we have time to craft all the language and get it, perfected, if you will, so that it could be, submitted timely. So it gives, we're not under the gun to get it done. We have some time, which is what the residents that I talked to wanted to make community. So that's why it's coming up now versus later, so we can get it right over time versus rushing it at the end. So any other comments, questions? Councilor Brooks.
I just want to thank you. It was very helpful and clarifying to me to understand the difference between those two processes and that they're just course of action processes. I also just want to say that I appreciate the work on the language. I think that that's helpful and clarifies the information, which is something that I would be interested in for people to have a really clear understanding if we were to move forward with this on what it is that they would actually be voting on and thinking about as citizens. Thanks.
And following Councilor Brooks' comment, I've gotten emails from folks, for and against. And I just want to make sure people understand this, that we can't just, as Sean mentioned earlier, we can't unilaterally change term limits since it is in our charter, that this has to go to the ballot. So ultimately the voters decide. Councilors do not decide. All we decide is to refer to the ballot. And then, if this goes on the ballot in May, the voters decide in May. We don't. So with that, is there a majority of councilors who would like to direct staff to start drafting the resolution and put it on a council meeting in the future that we can have a public meeting on the resolution and tweak the language if needed? So I see 3, I see 4. So I see 4 out of the 6 are yes. So I'm just looking at Councilor Grimes and Councilor Hillier. That's a yes or no, because I'm just seeing staring faces.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not in favor of us referring this to the ballot due to the nature of it and the very fact that it amends something that will affect all of us at some point. I feel that the best way for this to be revised, and believe me, I do want the term limit language revised, but I feel the best way for that to happen and the way that feels the best is for it to come from a citizen initiative. I feel like there's enough impetus and enough interest around this, and we've already have 2 different groups of people that have some really strong feelings about this. I feel like this would just be something that would best serve the community and really best serve the council as far as us using, the highest possible ideals with how we face this next change and our possible ability to serve. And I just feel very strongly it needs to be changed the same way it was initiated with the citizen-led initiative process. And I'm afraid I don't support the council sending it ourselves to the ballot.
Right. I appreciate your opinions and comments. The one thing I'd say, if we were in normal times, I would totally agree with you. I know I'm getting a lot of people talking, we're talking about, due to COVID, that we really don't want folks going door to door, knocking on doors, getting signatures, having to worry about dirty pens and, sanitizing them. A lot of folks have said and have told me, COVID is done. COVID, we have a 70% vaccination rate in the county, but we're all seeing the resurgence of it, the Delta variant. And my concern, to be honest, is just health and welfare of signature gatherers. That's why I'm on the camp of, referring it to the ballot. It's one of our powers as a city council. We can refer things to the ballot. Ultimately, either way, if we refer to the ballot or citizens initiative gets it on the ballot, it ultimately ends up on the ballot for the people to decide. So my concern is that just due concern is to prevent people from having to go door to door, interact with folks who might not be vaccinated or not wearing masks, whatever people like, because we are seeing resurgence. We're talking about not, folks not meeting again in person until October now. Cities and corporations are pushing back, bringing people back because of the Delta variant and because of an anticipated surge coming here soon. So I got health concerns, but if it wasn't for that, I'd be totally on board with you, Nancy, that let's do the signature process, but I just can't have people, in my mind, going door to door and exposing themselves for this.
And I completely understand your concerns because I share those concerns. I mean, people's health and well-being is foremost in my mind. But a couple things weighed in on that. First of all, during this process, we already had two, I feel, pretty well-established, active, informative groups that have an opinion on this. So I kind of feel like even in the midst of the COVID awareness period, people have been able to mobilize through social media and other non-direct contact groups. And I feel good about that. And then as Sean mentioned, the opportunity for people to participate in the referendum and signature signing by simply, printing off and mailing a sheet where they don't have to interact with anybody. And that gave me more peace of mind in that particular process. And I'm hoping that groups on both sides will be able to do some fundraising so that, they could reach out to people in a non-face-to-face contact way to support their position on this. So I hear what you're saying, and I completely agree with your concerns. I really do. But I think we have enough ways to overcome that we could still make this work in the time-honored fashion. Thank you.
So I just confirm, I see I'm an aye, Councilor Pratt, Councilor Brooks, and Councilor Sacco. And I'm assuming it's nays or Councilor Hillier and Council President Grimes, correct? All right. So you got a 4-2 split. So Sherlyn, work with our city attorney and draft the language. I think we all like, well, most of us liked Sean's new language. It was a little much clearer. Bring back a resolution that we'll have a public meeting on, and the whole, all our residents and citizens can then come back and let us know what they think. Again, I just want to put it out there. This is not a done deal. There's going to be a public meeting on this for folks to discuss, and we'll vote that night whether or not it's going to go on the ballot.
I have one more thing I would like to add. If this is going to move forward, which I hope this is done with extreme care, immense amount of visibility, and enormous amount of input from the community, because I have grave reservations about this. But I do have a question. One of the things that was floated as far as making a change to it, to the term limits piece, was adding language about any future mayoral candidate needed to have a minimum of one term as a city councilor prior to running.
I didn't see that.
Was that?
No.
Did anybody add that, or no?
Nope.
We're just going straight with separating out the mayor terms and the councilor terms.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no requirements on being elected mayor. There's no prior experience required.
Does that concern anyone? It certainly concerns me. I mean, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Is that something that would be
I
worth
can't see how you
adding?
can require people to have prior experience to run for mayor. It's kind of, I don't know if that's even legal. That'd be Sean's thing. I mean, if someone wants to run for mayor, they can run for mayor. If they have zero experience, more power to them. If they figure, if they want to run a campaign and debate, the topics of the day against other candidates, they should be able to do that.
All right, then.
Councilor Brooks.
I appreciate the conversation and thank you, Council President Grimes and Mayor around this. I think that I share concerns around understanding really what the position entails and understanding, even just as city councilors, how much it is that we learn and how experience really fosters, the city doing well. And I just want to really reiterate, in my mind, this is about the city doing well. And I think that positions reflect that concern. We want the city to do well. And the other piece about it is there, as a mayor, and some of our appointments too as counselors, we also have regional communications and relationships that we build. And so in my mind, and this is what this is about for me, it's not about this mayor, it's not about, but for me, it's about, if you're gonna build relationships and then in 4 years, that's it. There's a lot of rockiness around that. There's a lot of transitionary issues. And I think that it's reflective that the people that actually propose term limits are the people that seem to have come to us with this amendment, because there's thoughts around that. And then finally, I want to say, people think that we might, that we have some secretaries or pay or staff. So we're learning all this as we're, working and taking care of families. I don't know what's going on with the sound, but I just want to, I don't want to minimize, and whether I agree or disagree with anybody on council, the fact that everyone here on council stepped up and is dedicated to serving their community, we all have that in common, even if we didn't agree on one other thing. So I just want to keep it out of the realm. For me, it's not about personalities. It's about the mission of what a council is supposed to do and wanting to have like experience and wisdom, because even this week we have big loops, surprises. We've had a COVID virus that no one ever learned about before in the background. There's all kinds of learning curves going on all the time, and we don't have a staff like the president or even some of our locally elected other representatives. So I just want to be really clear on that. And then finally, the electronic signatures. I don't know, like some people might be super electronically savvy, but going door to door is how I would know that I would reach out and talk to everybody and see how it was going. And I would hate to say it, but if somebody were to come door to door to me right now, I would not appreciate it, because I have loved ones that are autoimmune and compromised, and it's too difficult of a time for me personally to have somebody knocking on my door. So those are I just want to put that out there just for being clear. But if people that had worked this saw some problems, I want the opportunity for voters to decide. And whatever they decide, we want to really support. So that, I just want to be very, very clear on that, because I think there can be a lot of nuance and there's a lot of feelings about it. So I respect everyone's feelings about it.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. So then we'll move on to council meeting agenda review, communications, and roundtable. Let's see. We do not have any proclamations, I believe, tonight. The pledge, I think it's Councilor Hillier's turn. Am I correct? All right. So Councilor Hillier will do the pledge of allegiance. Any questions on the consent agenda for tonight? We have, what, 2 items on consent? Any questions on those? All right. So at that point, I'll go into our roundtable of councilor communications, and I'll start with, I don't know why Zoom keeps doing this to you, Cindy, but Councilor Hillier, you're right next to me again. So you start off.
Well, that's a good place to be. I'll take it. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, fellow councilors. Thank you for the good discussion. I appreciate listening to everyone. I had several community meetings with different community members over the sound of gun noise, over the discussions around the referral process, initiative process, and those sorts of things. But the only official meeting that I went to, and I will, since it was my real first official one, ask Councilor Pratt to kind of make sure that I'm staying on track, because she thankfully listened in to my first Clackamas County Business Alliance meeting. And that was on July the 29th from 4 to 5 in the evening. We got to meet with about 8 folks from around the area who the board members were not there, but most of the people who comprise that committee. We got to hear from the Port of Portland Executive Director to share about updates. So I am reading from my notes, so I apologize to not be looking at you. It was a very informative meeting for me, because I didn't know how widespread the Port of Portland is, and how much they really serve really our entire state with with all the things that they touch. Their mission is to enhance the region's economy and quality of life. And the executive director spoke quite a bit about the impact of business at the airport, which was down quite a bit for a long time. The last 4 months, the air travel has returned to about 20% of what was normal. Our air cargo, like the little smiley boxes, Amazon, and those sorts of things, have really kept their business going as far as the airport, and noted that the front of the plane is really where the airlines tend to make their money, meaning, those first class tickets. So they hope soon we'll be back at a minimum of 60% capacity and keep moving forward. But as we point out tonight, the Delta variant could change that. They're also doing a whole bunch of construction at the airport. And I would encourage anyone and everyone to look at pdxnet.com, I think was the website that they talked about, because there's a rendering of the new airport main building and some of the different terminals, and it is exceptional. It sounds like potentially they're even considering releasing butterflies and such into the area, because they have really created a place that they're doubling their footprint, but really truly because of the environmental care that they've taken. They are not increasing their true footprint at all. So there's just a lot of really good stuff there. We did hear from Chris Lyons of Clackamas County about the I-205 update. And I think that we've heard a variety of things from other folks. But the one thing I hadn't heard was about the Clackamas Caucus and how strongly that they feel that their area has gotten an unfair burden for that area with the tolling sooner than later. And so there's some pushback there that I'm sure we'll hear about soon. And on the September 15th meeting, we will hear about the Willamette Falls and what a river economy does. So if you're interested in more about that, please let me know. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Pratt.
Wow, that was quite thorough, except he didn't throw in that the designer didn't understand our obsession with tacky carpeting at the airport, as he put it. I went to the Clackamas County Climate Action or Community Action, I can't even say it. Clackamas County Climate Action Community Action Task Force, our first meeting. So a lot of it was just meet other people and, you know, all the basic intro stuff. But we were told that our goal is to help Clackamas County meet its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050 and looking at it through a climate lens. And ultimately, we're supposed to help develop 2-year implementation plans to get to that goal. I thought they really got a diverse group of people. I was with somebody that rents power equipment and wants to see how that, you know, that whole industry can transition to being more climate friendly and not using fossil fuels. So it was pretty interesting. Oh, I went to Jeff's going away party, which was sad and nice and very hot. And then I had the C4 meeting last Thursday, and we also got a tolling update. And yeah, as Councilor Hillier said, there's nobody I heard in Clackamas County that's very happy about this little 5 miles or so from Oregon City to I-5. A lot of, they showed, their study showed that over 75% of those trips in that area are from people that start from Gladstone to over here in Tualatin and Wilsonville. So that tells you a lot. So that led to a lot of questions about, you know, some people have in the West Lynn area just have to get on the highway to get on and off the highway to go to the grocery store. So is that going to cost them $5 or $10 every time they go to the store? And I asked about the same for people that are business people that, you know, whatever they do, repair people or delivery people that are on and off it, if there were special concessions from them, and they haven't looked at it. But much as usual of the top or discussion was because the 75% just makes the concerns about diversion onto other roads even more, you know, concerning. Also with C4, there's going to be a retreat. Used to be the Resort at the Mountain. I think it's called something else now, right there at Welch's when you're going up the mountain. All city councilors and Sherilyn are invited to it if you're interested. I would say just let Sherilyn know. The big the 2 topics that are going to be covered, it's going to be overnight. I think it's going to start in the afternoon on Friday and go into Saturday. The 2 topics that were chosen to discuss, no surprise, transportation and emergency preparedness, because especially Clackamas County, they got hit terribly hard by the fires and the ice this last year. So, and they have more roads than any other county that, and less funding for some reason. So those are going to be the 2 topics. I would encourage anybody that wants to go because mayors from a lot of our surrounding cities are there. We have Christine Lewis from Metro's part of this group, Paul Salvis from Clackamas County. So, you know, it's an opportunity to meet these people. And it is subject to, you know, we're going forward at this point. We had a vote, but, you know, if COVID things happen, COVID things will happen and we will do the safe thing. But if we do get to meet in person, it's a great way to meet these people and to help talk to other people of the concerns that we all have and maybe come up with solutions or ways to go forward with this. That's all and my last thing was just to promote the cooling centers that city staff set up so quickly, the Pole Center and the library. Thank you.
Can you elaborate on that, Valerie, and bring that up again at council meeting? Or
yeah, I thought of that might be a better time.
The dates and times and
yeah, I've got it all written down, so I will bring it up at council.
Okay, terrific.
Mayor Bubenit, can I ask a follow-up question of Councilor Pratt?
Sure.
Will you restate those dates for the C4 retreat, or do you have them? I can send them.
Sure, and I'm making sure now. It's October 1st, which is a Friday, and 2nd. And my understanding is that it'll start about 1 in the afternoon on Friday and go into maybe early afternoon on Saturday.
All right. All right. So Councilor Brooks.
Well, hi, everybody. I don't have very many. The council, we didn't meet around appointments this month. We're still collecting applications for city committees. But I also attended Jeff Fox's going away party and just really appreciate it was a really nice event. It was nice to see, I haven't seen so many people in person for so long. So it was really nice to see people in person and thank our fearless director personally and talk and meet our new employee and, just, it was very nice. I also just want to say, and this is kind of off topic, but I have two things with the variant. There's these bleed through cases, and I'm just saying this I just have friends and things, but there's these bleed through cases, and I know someone that has COPD. They were vaccinated. They got COVID. They were they were 1 point away from not being able to get an infusion that would help them. So it's just really important, whether you've been vaccinated or not, if there's symptoms going on and you feel like you've got pneumonia or something, to go in early to find out. I also just really appreciate the county email that you forwarded, Mayor, around what's happening. We've done a good job. The county's done a good job. I'm not happy with the county right now for everything, but that I'm very thrilled about. And so I just want to, keep our priorities straight. And then watching the Olympics this particular season, I think during COVID, and watching how even people that were competing with each other were collaborative and cheering each other on and being kind and having character was so inspiring to me. And I think it's something that can be taken in lesson for me and for anyone to know that, we can be competing and we can have the same goal and two different people trying to get there, two different agendas, but however we get there, we can stay kind to each other, and we can know that those conversations help us be, as far as these conversations, they help me be my best. They help, when people bring up their concerns, it helps me think more clearly, and I hope that people are open and thinking that way about me too. So I just found that really helpful. And then I also wanted to extend my sort of sadness and support for police and our police department during this time when we see these national suicides and losses from the insurrection, and know that it's a very difficult time in so many different ways during this period for so many different people, and to treat each other kindly and respect each other as well as we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Sacco.
I do not have any communications this week. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That's quick. All right. Councilperson Grimes. You're up, Nancy.
I know, I'm sorry. I couldn't unmute myself.
All right.
Technical idiot. I don't have any, I didn't go to any meetings that were held, so I don't have any of that to share, but I am appreciating very much what Councilor Brooks is saying. And in that same spirit, I'm wondering if there are 3 other councilors who might be interested in joining me. I feel in my heart like I would like us as a council to write a letter in support of our city manager and send it to our dear partners at Washington County, and to let them know how much we value our staff and we value our people, and to let them know that oftentimes things we do and say as counselors, staff is left with the difficult job of interpreting that to other municipalities and governing boards in the region. And also they get stuck, using the term lightly, they get very stuck asking questions on our behalf and expressing concerns on our behalf. And I feel like they should be able to do that in a respectful and mutually responsible work environment. And I would just like to see if anybody else wants to join me in penning a letter of support for our #1 employee, because I think it's important.
So
Love you guys,
then you just
genuinely
volunteered-
from my heart. I do.
So you just volunteered to draft the letter, though, Nancy.
I'd be happy to. I don't
right.
know. It might
Great.
not turn out quite the way you think, but I'm more than happy to take a stab at that, because I feel like it's very important.
I agree with you. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
just draft
guys.
something up, and I don't think we get in trouble with Sean about wordsmithing a letter that we all agree on, do we? Or
You
we
would.
have to- How do
You
we
wouldn't
handle
get in
it,
trouble
Sean?
with me, but you would get in trouble. So
Oh, dear.
if it's a council letter, yeah, so you can't, if it's coming from the council as a whole, then it has to be agreed upon, if you're going to agree upon it in a public meeting, yeah.
Right. So maybe we just bring it back in a work session when you have a draft done, Nancy.
Yeah, I can draft something. We can bring it back to a work session. We can all commit, and if we like it, I guess we could all sign it.
Yep.
Is that okay, Sean?
Absolutely.
Okay. I only got like a year left. I don't need to go to prison quite yet. I'm going to save my get out of jail free card for like down the road when I really blow it. So thanks.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Nancy. I had a light 2 weeks because a lot of meetings were canceled because of people's summer vacations. The big one was on July 29th, the Greater Portland Economic Development District. Remember, that's the region-wide committee that is mapping out the economic development strategy for the region. It was our meeting to review the final draft of the SEDS. Again, the now I just brain cramped on it. Economic Development Plan from GPED, too many freaking acronyms. We looked at the final draft that incorporated public comments. We got to review all the public comment on the SEDS. We felt that Greater Portland Inc. did a terrific job in incorporating all the feedback. And it was there was quite a bit of feedback on the SEDS from Washington County, either the county itself or from different cities that was incorporated. So it was voted upon, and I believe it was unanimous to approve the comprehensive economic development strategy for the region. So now this is transitioning to publicizing this, getting the word out, and getting people more acquainted with the plan. So that board or that committee continues. You'll be hearing more about that. I'm sure Jonathan will be involved with this. It's Walton Chamber of Commerce. Our bigger industries in town will all be learning a little bit more about this economic development strategy for the next several years. On August 2nd, myself, Mayor Joe Buck, and Mayor Jules Walters met with Chair Smith. She received our letter asking that the cities be notified timely of any conditional use permits that are being held or heard in the Stafford Basin. She wanted to know if there was more to it than that. So we just told her no. We just want to be, notified that, if something's going to happen in the Stafford Basin and the area that all 3 cities are involved in, we'd like to be notified so that we can give our feedback to the county, because all 3 cities are invested in how that area further develops. And I let her know this was kicked off by the CUP that was submitted by the school there. to put a storage facility on some land right next to the Tualatin River. Councilor Pratt testified in opposition to it for us, but I just gave her a history since she wasn't here for that part. She said, if that sounds terrific, I will let you know. I will direct our folks to make sure all 3 cities are notified of any CUPs that occur in that area. And then finally today, the Aging Task Force met for the first time in like a year and a half at the Poll Center. Majority of us were all masked up and social distanced. I let them know that beginning Wednesday, is that correct, Sherilyn? That city facilities, all guests and employees will have to wear masks inside city facilities. So 9 out of 10 people had their mask at the ready. We had a terrific meeting. The first topic of discussion was ride connection, and they gave us a review or an overview of the new shuttle route system. They have a new green line that will go down Borland Road to serve all the way down the Rolling Hills and eventually connect to Smart shuttle that will run from around Rolling Hills down I-5 in the breakdown lane. We're just waiting approval from ODOT for that, all the way up to Clackamas Town Center. So they showed us a map or proposed map, proposed times. The food pantry and the Borland Free Clinic had some great input and questions about how people get boxes onto the shuttle if they're at the food pantry, and about extending the service times past 7 o'clock, because the free clinic, as it does shut down at 7, but they're still seeing clients probably until 8. So they're taking that into account. And then also asking maybe possibly the hospital to allow folks to park at the hospital and jump onto the shuttle to get down Borland Road. And there was questions about a stop around Bridgeport Elementary, because right now that's not in their plan, but they were very open and receptive, wrote down all the questions. I feel they'll get back to us very soon. The target date for the new service to start up will be the fall of this year, maybe around October. They're just waiting on final approvals and safety inspections. So the red line will change a little bit. I'm sure they'll come back to us with the latest and greatest maps, but it's looking good so far. And then Steve Copper gave a terrific review of the Basalt Creek update to the group, talking about everything that's going on from the UGB expansion down there years ago to the Autumn Sunrise application that the city staff has received, and what's going on there. I gave an update on SEPA, and also let people know about the park plan and where that is down in Basalt Creek. And that's all I have. But thanks to Steve, he did a terrific job today, Sherilyn, with the update to the Aging Task Force. I saw Susan's head nodding that both presenters did great today between Ride Connection and Steve. That's all I have. Yep, that's it. So I guess we're done a little early. So I'll go ahead and we'll adjourn this work session. We'll start back up about 25 minutes at 7 o'clock.